Hi everyone. I just wanted to give a little bit of a channel update, do some general housekeeping, and just kind of say hello. And talk a little bit about my last video. I'm going to try to do this all in one take. I don't have any time for editing tonight, so you'll have to bear with me if it gets choppy or if I get into a little bit of ums. I apologize in advance for that. Before I get on to my previous video, I did want to just say that Gary from Phony Beatlemaniacs had asked a question of several of us, and he was asking for video response, and I am going to do that. You'll just have to bear with me as to when I get around to it, because as many of you know, I'm quite busy right now, and I desperately would love to be able to make more videos and respond to some of these requests. I just don't have a lot of time. And Ozzy had been asked the same question by Gary, and Ozzy had responded that, he felt he was going to need to give quite a comprehensive answer, and that he might even be better suited for a Google Hangout or something like that. I don't feel that my answer would be nearly as comprehensive as Ozzy's. Mine might be a little bit more casual than maybe his will be. And I think I've got a grasp on what Gary's asking. He'd sort of talked about how do you make decisions, and he had sort of mentioned morality. So I think that's what he's looking for, is my sort of secular morality. What is my take on that? And I'm very, very happy to answer that, because to me, Gary is someone who actually is interested in my answer. And to that end, I've actually been watching Gary on a lot of Hangouts, and I really appreciate his style. There was one he was recently on with, I can't remember everybody that was on there, so please forgive me, Muskogum Man and Hell in a Handbasket, and I can't remember who else now. At any rate, I really appreciate the way he conducts himself and the respect that he shows to people that he's talking to. That, to me, that goes a long way. And also on that same Hangout, I mentioned Hell in a Handbasket. This is someone else who I've really been enjoying watching on the few Google Hangouts I've seen her on lately. And I'm not sure what it is, if it's just the way she conducts herself, or if it's because it's someone that I had seen commenting on my videos for quite a while, and now I'm seeing her in person and contributing. But what I really like about her is she seems to be genuinely inquisitive and genuinely seeking an understanding and wisdom. And she doesn't always have a lot of interaction, but when she does speak, it's really genuine. And I really, really am digging that. So I hope to see more of Hell in a Handbasket on different Google Hangouts. Let's see. On my last video, 1140 Cecile had been giving me some suggestions about controlling my migraines. As I mentioned in that video, I've got these sort of onset cues for these ocular migraines that I get with the aura and the shimmering and a blind spot in my vision. But the visual cues aren't always things that lead to a migraine. But what's happened is I've developed this anxiety around them. So I have a lot of floaters in my eyes, tons of floaters. I've got this sea of garbage in my eyes when I look around, and they all dance around. Sometimes, if I happen to look at something I'm trying to focus on, and one of those floaters lands right on it, and it actually blots out part of it, for an instant, I think that's a blind spot, and I'm going into a migraine. And so that gives me a lot of anxiety. I can feel this rush through me. I get this this pulse of like adrenaline. I can almost taste it in my mouth. And so a lot of people in my last video had given me different suggestions about how to control those things, how to manage that anxiety, to minimize it. And some great suggestions. But what 1140 Cecile had said is maybe trying to control it, trying to fight it off, because some of them are migraines, of course. Trying to fight it off might not be the thing to do. She suggested to actually try to push it towards, try to facilitate the migraine, try to push it towards, sort of thereby gaining control of it. And then you could actually manipulate it at will. With enough practice, you could actually then pull it away. And this is actually very similar to some thought policing that my mom had taught me when I was younger. And this is effective stuff. I've used it for many different things. So there's sort of random negative thoughts, especially for pushing away negative thoughts. It's very good for self-esteem. Because we have these sort of negative self-talk sometimes. And if you can catch yourself in the act and replace that with something else, this can be quite effective. And so I'm not meaning to minimize this by giving the following analogy, but I thought it was funny because it reminded me, her suggestion reminded me of a customer of mine and their story about how they trained their dog. This customer has a dog who was digging 5-gallon bucket-sized holes in his lawn when he was away at work every day. And of course, this was a big problem. So he tried in vain to teach this dog, to train him to not dig holes, all kinds of aversion things to try to stop the dog from doing it, and nothing worked. One day he just decided to stop fighting it, and he started training the dog to dig on command with rewards, and he would just work with the dog, and once he got him to where the dog would dig on command, then when he would leave for work, he would just say no digging, and that was the end of it. He had no more unwanted holes in his yard. And again, I don't mean to make fun of the suggestion left by 1140 Cecile, because I think her suggestion is a valid one. It's kind of scary to think about doing that, to try to push myself towards closer towards a migraine. But actually, I value the suggestion because I think there is possibly some validity to it. I'll take it under advisement. I'm not saying that I'm going to do it, but that's a very interesting thing to think about. And I should say as well, I have mostly good days, right? So I'm not constantly saddled with migraines. So I don't want anyone out there to think that I'm, it's a pity party, pity me. The reason that I brought up the migraines in the last video is because it dealt with this issue of certainty and of knowing, and that sort of builds up this anxiety that I have when I see these cues, which may or may not actually be a migraine, because I've got this sense, and it's hard to sort of unlearn that sense that it's coming. So that's why I was discussing that. Let's see here. The Bible Thumping Wingnut also commented on my video, and I thought that was kind of interesting. First of all, he said that obviously I still don't get the presuppositional apologetic because he's not granting me knowledge and reason and logic on my worldview. Yeah, I never said that, Tim. I would challenge you to show me where I've ever said that you were granting me knowledge on my worldview. I never ever said that. What I said was, listen carefully, what I said was, neither one of us is challenging my ability to use logic and reason and rational thought. Now, I'm basing it on my worldview, you're basing it on your worldview. Either way, neither one of us is saying that I don't have reason and logic on my side, that I can't think properly. You're not challenging that. Neither am I. So then with that intact reason and logic, let's go and do an internal critique on Scripture. That's what I was saying. I should be able to look at the source documents because you're not claiming that I can't reason. So therefore I should be able to go ahead and do that. Now, of course, what ends up happening is then we start playing hide and seek with Scripture. They come up with all different kind of reasons why they won't actually discuss Scripture with an unbeliever. But it's not because they don't think you can't reason through it. Anyway, that was the point there, Tim. I wasn't never saying that you were granting me knowledge on my worldview. I never said that once. Of course, I don't need you to grant me anything. The funny thing is, you've never addressed the point that I've made, which is that you're not providing any more accounting for your knowledge, logic, reason, etc., than I have. Yet you're acting as though you have. You talk about reduced to absurdity, etc. Show me where you've ever. Here's a challenge to any presuppositional apologist out there. Show me where you've given any more of an accounting for your reasoning than I have. And here's a clue or a hint. You're not allowed to argue in a circle or have an infinite regress, and labels don't help, right? I don't want to hear virtuously circular. Okay? So the moment that you can actually have the common decency of recognizing, it's funny because I made a video where I challenged. I made, the video where I threw things, all these circles around. I didn't have any theists respond to that. I haven't checked the video in a couple of days, but I haven't had any theists respond to that and say, we're meeting your challenge. Here's how we end the infinite regress, or don't argue in a circle to validate our reasoning. Not one, Tim. Bozo. And that brings me to Bozo. Oh, one more thing. With regards to Tim, he said he's still waiting for the change in channel direction. Yeah, listen, don't hold your breath, pal. Okay, here's the deal. You focus on your channel and I'll focus on mine. Okay. The funny thing is, the video that I made was partially in response to a request made by Tim for atheists to make a video about certainty. You forgot that, I think. In any case, you and your friends seem to be really concerned about what other people do with their channels. If you don't like the content here, feel free to stop watching my videos. Otherwise, you're welcome to engage in the comments section as you have been, but let's stop with the I'm waiting for the change in channel direction, okay? I'll change it when I feel damn good and ready. And then that gets me to Bozo and profanity. Danny Taylor had commented on my video and he said, you know, you've been talking a lot about fathers lately, and my father, Danny, didn't believe in using profanity. He said he felt that it limited people's vocabulary, and he thought it was cute when I called Tim a bozo. Two things there, profanity and name calling. So when it comes to profanity, I don't use it very often. Most people have noticed that. It was a while back now I made a blooper reel, a video of outtakes where I screwed up the recording, and in a couple of those I'd had some profanity, you know, just at that moment where you realized it's gone off the fucking rails, right? And before I hit stop, I would let loose some kind of expletives, and people had commented on that video, wow, I've never heard you swear before. And that sort of made me think, I guess that's true. I don't swear a lot in my normal everyday life. I'm actually not one of these cursing mechanics. I don't swear much in my professional life either. It's not because I have a problem with profanity. It's really because I value profanity so much. I don't want to dilute it by using it when it's not called for. To me, there are those words, those expletives, that only they can pack the punch that you need sometimes. They're the only words that will really drive a point home, and I don't want to dilute them by using them all the time. So that's the main reason you don't see me use a lot of profanity on my YouTube channel, and actually if you knew me in real life, I don't use a lot of profanity in my day-to-day life either, because I want those words to mean something when I use them. And so, believe you me, it's actually because I value them so highly that I don't use them a lot. And when it comes to name calling, I used the name Bozo when I was talking about Tim in my last video, very specifically because I don't believe in name calling, at least not, you know, sort of vile name calling. Now that's not to say I won't call someone out if they really deserve it, but believe me, for me to be really, really vile and vulgar when referencing a person, they got to have done something really awful. For me, I felt the need to kind of call Tim out for something that was frustrating me, and I wanted him to know it, but I didn't want to resort to any kind of vile name calling. And to me, bozo is kind of a term, it's almost a term of endearment, right? It's kind of a way of, you know, I mean, my wife might call me a bozo, or I might knee my good friend in the ribs and call them a bozo. And that's sort of the reason that I used that term with Tim. But make no mistake, I don't really see a lot of merit in calling people names. Certainly not in a hurtful manner, and I certainly didn't mean to be hurtful to Tim, but I kind of wanted him to know that I was a little bit frustrated with some of his misrepresentations of my position. And I guess with that, I'll probably leave it at there for tonight. When it comes to change in channel direction, again, I'm going to make the videos that I make, and I hope that everybody who subscribes to my channel will enjoy the content I put forth. I do intend to change the channel direction in the future. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to make the odd presuppositional video if I feel the mood strikes me. I do have one that I scripted quite a while back, and I think it's got merit, so I'm going to upload it at some point. It's a scripted video, so I'll probably just do it as a narrated video instead of my usual stream of consciousness, because I want to be very specific in the language with that one, but that one will be uploaded at some point. The morality discussion is something that we were having on my channel back in the summer and we kind of abandoned, and that's something I'd like to get back into, as well as I've mentioned family issues, self-esteem, spanking, parenting, a bunch of other things like that. I still have an auto racing video to upload for Blue as Blue Is. I haven't forgotten. And Gary, I haven't forgotten about the video that you've asked me to make. It's just, you're all going to have to bear with me a little bit because time is really critical for me right now. So I'm going to have to upload as I have the opportunity. But this stuff is all, I've been making a list of some of the things that I want to discuss on my channel. One of the topics I'd like to discuss soon as well is this whole idea of skepticism. A lot of skepticism, or sorry, a lot of skeptics are getting the wag of the finger for me right now. Maybe I'll plant the seed right now for all of you, and if anybody wants to send me a private message with any suggestions on a video on skepticism, I would welcome it, because I see a lot of people, self-declared skeptics. They're not very skeptical, at least not of their own claims. It always reminds me of the realistic nihilist, who had a video quite a while back now, back in the summer, about bilateral skepticism. And I think that's really, really crucial, and I see a lot of times where that's lacking. This recent video that I watched with Phony Beatlemaniacs, oh, I wish I could remember. Something about sinners, Sunday night sinners, I don't know what it was. This hangout, there was a lot of times when I was kind of yelling at the screen when some of the discussion was going on, because, again, people who would be self-declared skeptics weren't being very skeptical, at least not of the stuff coming out of their own mouth. And that's something I think, obviously, we all should do. We all should be careful about, you know, everything that we're putting forth. Now I'm getting rambly, so I think it's time to sign off for tonight. So stay tuned, hopefully, for more videos coming up in the future. Thanks everybody very much for watching. Have a great week.